Today on Israel Hayom Insider, we take a deeper look at a movement of Israelis and Palestinians who are reaching out to each other at the grassroots level and creating new models for peace and coexistence. Last month, I spoke to Inon Kehati from the Hayom organization. Now Inon is back, this time with his Palestinian partner in crime, as he calls him, John Elias Dabis. I'm Steve Ganot. John and Inon, welcome.
Thank you.
Inon, give us an overview again about the organization.
The Hayom is an organization that believes in working together, Israelis and Palestinians from all over the land. Combination of ideas from right, from left, ideas of spiritual belief between Christianity, Islam, Judaism, even unbelievers, and finding a combining path of the narrative of the Palestinian and the Israeli Jewish people.
Okay. And who started this organization?
Basically, both of us together
Both
on
of you?
Facebook.
Okay, John, how did you meet Inon?
Well, basically, there was a Facebook post, and we were talking about Jews and Arabs praying together on Temple Mount.
On the Temple
Haram
Mount.
Sharif, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Har
Okay.
HaBayit.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. John, you are in a wheelchair.
Yes.
You weren't always in a wheelchair.
No.
Can you tell us about how that came about?
I basically was a journalist, a photojournalist. I did some articles as well, and there was a day in Jericho that I was covering, and the way I went in wasn't open as when I went in, so I had to go out through another road, and I went on Highway 90 towards Shechem, or Nablus as they call it over here, and the checkpoint that was going towards Nablus was closed, only for people with Nablus IDs. So the soldiers at the checkpoint told me to go back through the Dead Sea route, and when I came, he told me to take the first right. There's a road that goes towards the Dead Sea, and the first right ended up to be a road that he maybe miscalculated, misguided to an Israeli army base. And
So you ended up driving into an Israeli army base by accident.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I had gas or maybe a smoke. I don't remember it 100%. Thrown into my car, and basically I lost consciousness. And Magen David, or the Star of David, ambulance
The emergency
revived
services.
me. Yeah, emergency services for the Israeli army revived me, and they let me on my way. 2-3 days later, I began feeling weaknesses in my legs and body, and till now I'm still having complications with my nervous system, basically.
So after that experience, didn't that make you bitter and like how do you get past that kind of an experience and get involved in specifically in an organization of reconciliation and peace and working with both sides?
Well, I would not lie to you. In the beginning, I was depressed for over a year. I was into myself. I went to get checked in other places like the United States, where I was born and I grew up, in Houston, Texas, and also where I where I completed my master's degree, which was in Austin, Texas, a few towns over. And yeah.
And here you are.
And now I'm 100%. I believe Inon's a person, I'm a person, you're a person, we're all people. I think we need to figure out a way to reconcile and live together.
Okay, I want to hear about your vision. You've got an 8-step resolution of the conflict. We won't have time, obviously, to go through all the 8 steps, but what is your vision in general? What's the big picture here?
First and foremost, the 8-step resolution is about a new paradigm of thinking that is really needed in this conflict. We don't only talk about the end game, the way that we see it, but we also talk about how to get there.
Okay.
And the end game should be basically that both people can share the whole land. The Palestinian people will have freedom, but with the freedom comes also self-responsibility, law and order. So it has to be in a way that is going to be rationalized, emotion, and also spirit. I mean, because we need to combine these principles in the solution.
Okay, but I want to bring you back. I want to bring you back to what we call in Hebrew tachlis, in Yiddish. it's a canton plan, right? A federation of a Palestinian and an Israeli or Jewish canton side by side.
To say it very basically, it's going to be one sovereignty
Yeah.
with one army, one Supreme Court,
Mm-hmm.
one constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Below that, it's going to be, by the way, the sovereignty is going to be for all people in the land. Below that, going to be two states to preserve the national identity, that you can't really dismantle national identity
Yeah.
in one day. And I think that I'm proud of my identity and John proud in his
Of
identity. So, and most people are very nationalistic
Sure.
anyway. And below that, going to be cantons to preserve the culture and civil law
Yeah.
in every area. So, for example, Gaza will be Muslim canton. That me, if I want to live there as a Jew, I have to respect the local law. Same way as Tel Aviv, which is going to be a Jewish secular canton. That the Palestinian from Gaza, if he wants to live there, he need to respect
Okay.
the local law.
Okay. You've talked about everyone has a right to live wherever they want in the land, and you're going. And part of the plan is to allow for a right of return for Palestinian refugees and their descendants. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
How do you maintain?
May I answer your question?
Mhm.
First of all, it's a rational way. It's not bring everybody in at once.
Yeah.
I think as a start, there's about, you can say, 650 to 700,000 settlers inside the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria, as you call it.
Mhm.
And there's about 650 to 700,000 refugees living in the harshest conditions.
Mhm.
So in order to equalize that, letting those in, and the first step, and the first wave of letting in refugees.
Okay. So an important part of the plan is that the settlers can stay where they are.
And
No
under
settlements
the
get
Palestinian state, of course.
Under the- within the
Because of the borders, they want to do it symbolically to the 67 ceasefire line or whatever. Okay, but after that, I believe that at the same time, to keep the status quo between Arabs and Jews together, I believe in, like last year, I think Israel had about 30,000 people coming in, Aliyah, pretty much,
I don't
something
know,
around
like
that,
yeah.
something
Something
around
like
that.
that,
So like, let's say next year, 30,000 Jews would like to come in. I think 30,000 Arabs can come in as a right of return as well.
Okay.
And that way kind of equalizing and keeping the status quo as is. It's not a demographic threat. It's making right what may have been wrong by the Arab nations and by Israel.
And if I may
In
also
some
add,
sense. Yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
if I may also add, for us Jews, Israelis, it's important for us that our state will be Jewish state.
Yeah.
And this is what the people want, this is what the people should get.
Yeah.
But not to be a Jewish state that the non-Jew feel that he doesn't belong.
Right.
It's about fixing, stuff.
Okay. So I guess you talked about the 67 borders. I'm guessing it's the 67 borders with some kind of adjustments. Maybe
I think
not.
it's exact same, pretty
Oh,
much.
the exact
as
same, okay.
I mean, as the 67 lines were.
Okay. So
Pretty much.
what about Jerusalem then? A very thorny issue.
Jerusalem should be a shared capital
Mhm.
of the country, because it's two states and one country.
So a united city
It's a united city, Arab and Jew, pretty much.
and the Temple Mount.
Temple Mount should be able, Arabs and Jews, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, should be able to pray upon. I mean, as in the history.
As a Palestinian, that's a pretty radical point of view, isn't it? That Jews should be able to pray on the Temple Mount?
I believe so. I mean, Jews, Christians, Muslims,
Mhm.
they all pray to the same God, the God of Abraham, is
Right.
it not? So why not?
John, with your views,
Mhm.
do you fear for your safety, for your family? We know it must not be easy.
I've always believed in freedom of speech, and I believed in, I've always said what I think.
You live in Ramallah.
I live in Ramallah, yes.
You've got a family.
Yes, I have a family.
And you're not worried.
I'm not worried at all.
What about BDS? This is an issue that has, it's really in the news a lot today. Is BDS something that you support? Is it something that is good for the Palestinians?
I believe that BDS hurts the Palestinian people that work in Israel, and I believe it loses a lot of jobs for a lot of breadwinners, especially in the Palestinian villages and towns. It's horrible. I believe that people try to go for BDS, even in the West Bank, and sometimes they try to go for BDS, but
No, sometimes people just want to boycott the West Bank.
They wanted to boycott. No, the Palestinians want to
settlers.
boycott Israel
Yeah.
as a whole, and mostly Israel as a settlement, like with the water. I think it's Nevaot or something like that, called the mineral water.
Yeah.
They buy En Gedi with no problem, but Nevaot, because it's made in a settlement or something like that, they don't want to buy it. But you forget that a lot of Palestinians have jobs working in, like the recent soda stream issue.
Right.
Pretty much 1,000 jobs were lost, I believe, somewhere around that number.
Yeah. And I think people are still boycotting SodaStream, which is even crazier.
Which is even worse, and they've already moved back into
the Negev.
what they call Israel proper right now.
Right.
If I may also add about BDS, is
Sure.
that they lost control about their campaign because
How so?
How so? Because if they try to focus on Israel and the Israeli government and settlements, they totally lost it, because now most BDS supporters are anti-Israeli people, and also it became to be also something very, I don't want to say anti-Semitic because the Palestinians also Semitic, but anti-Jewish.
Anti-Jewish.
They lost control, I think, on the campaign.
What is your relationship with other peace movements? Peace Now. There are a lot of them out there. Peace Now, Gush Shalom. These are, I would say that the left-wing orthodoxy is quite different from your ideas, right? It's a two-state solution. We're
Separation.
More separation, more like a divorce than this is more like a marriage.
Well, since I believe, and we both believe, that Jews and Arabs should be able to live anywhere in the land, and the lack of the connection between the Jewish people and the Palestinian people, which is kind of enforced in the Israeli system today, which is basically with the laws saying an Israeli can't come to area A, then the division between A, B, and C, you see the signs when you're getting in, the fear factor is playing a big role in it. And I believe that they want us to stay further apart. You guys are over here, we are over here, we don't need to meet, maybe we'll do business with you, maybe we won't, I believe the more we can get in contact with each other's cultures and each other's human lives, we can make a greater peace, a stronger peace, and make this country thrive better than no other. Because it is the center of the world, after all.
Yeah.
And if may I also add about the perception of the typical left NGOs, is that Judea and Samaria, or the Palestinians call it the West Bank, is not a part of Israel, not a part of the land,
Right,
not
that's the
where
attitude.
Jews should not live in Judea and Samaria. This is unjust at all. And I think the reason why we have the state of Israel is that because our ancestors prayed for 2,000 years, especially for Judea and Samaria, and not for Tel Aviv or Netanya or Haifa. So justice must be balanced. So Jews must
a lot of those
live.
coastal areas, according to the history of the Old Testament and all, most of those coastal areas in the Jewish history, what I kind of understood from it was basically taken over by the Philistines during
especially in the south.
Pretty much, yeah. But there's fishermen that came in from Greece.
Ashkelon.
Yeah, pretty much. So a lot of those areas today that people are living in.
Because this is the cradle of our culture as Jews.
Yeah, exactly.
And also for Palestinians.
And Jerusalem as well.
I mean, it doesn't mean that Palestinians shouldn't live also in the settlements in the future solution.
I wouldn't mind today living in if they would let me.
And also peace is about building something, not destroying.
Yeah. You guys are great friends. And I'm sure you've got followers, you've got people that, other people involved in the organization. But how do you get from a relatively small organization to, getting this idea out to the masses? How do you make that next step?
Well, good people like yourself. The media.
Okay.
And social media. And
more than that, people that work for something, get involved in the interaction, and in, we basically believe in the commitment of all the Jewish people and all the Palestinian people to all of the land. So, the event of, cleaning the hate, people basically getting involved in fixing something and proving this is the Holy Land, Eretz HaKodesh, Ard al-Muqaddasa, and not only talking, but doing, because actions speak louder than words.
John, there's so much animosity and hatred right now. It's really hard for me to see how we get from there to this wonderful vision of cooperation that you guys have. What is your feeling about the current wave of violence? How do we get past it? First of all, what motivates it, and how do we get past it?
Motivation comes from different things, in my opinion. A lot comes from tension. A lot come from people just gave up
Yeah.
on what's going on. There are injustices done by both sides. There are lack of jobs in the Palestinian society. There's lack of the freedom of movement inside the Palestine between places and places because of checkpoints, flyby checkpoints, whatever, you know. And there are many factors driving people to do such exercise. While I'm 100% against any type of violence,
You're against it.
I'm 100% against it.
Mhm.
But there are people who feel no other hope but to do something like that. Maybe it's to make money, you know, off of different donations for such actions from different countries or different parties. Maybe it's for like family security, of course, which is all part of the money, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the money corrupts.
The money corrupts, the situation gives hopelessness,
Yeah.
they feel there's nowhere else to run, there's nowhere else to go, and we're talking about younger generation doing these things pretty much, you know what I mean?
And not
Yeah.
only that, also both leadership from both sides don't provide positive vision.
Can you leave us though with some kind of a positive vision, getting past that violence and making the next step towards reconciliation? Do you guys see
Well,
any?
we can
do you
all
see light at the end of the tunnel?
We can all start with cleaning the hate, basically.
Cleaning the hate. So.
What do we have left? We don't have donations. We actually don't need donations to do it.
Mhm.
It's just an idea, you know, to fix a mutual problem.
Cleaning up the land, showing that we all love and respect the land.
Not
and
only that,
building
also,
on that.
also that we love and respect the neighbor from
Yeah.
both sides mutually, not only Jew to Palestinian, but Palestinian to Jew.
And I think all three religions say something about loving the neighbor.
Absolutely.
So.
Inon, John, I want to thank you very much.
Toda rabba.
Thanks again to the viewers for continuing to watch us, to follow us. We will continue to follow John and Inon's progress on this, and we'll see you next time.